Sorry that it took us a little bit longer, but we're happy we're all here and happy to launch our very first wisdom sharing, our gathering together, where we welcome Kutluhan with his wisdom, his knowledge, his experience around natural farming. And we will go into that in this gathering and deepen it out, deepen the topic out, feel from a heart space also how we can connect to our mother and bring everything that we can forward to support this process. I would like, before we start, to ask everyone to close their eyes for just a brief moment. Please feel how your breath is connecting you to this wider space in your body and all around you. Feel everything that is available in that space. Perhaps some thoughts, emotions, things that arise that you have perhaps to do, to get to. Feel how with each breath you can make your container, your space, your body emptier. And simply allowing everything to be. I would like to welcome everyone, as all of you are wisdom holders. And when we connect to our inner knowing, our inner intuition, we hold the same knowledge. And this is how we can also tap into the fields. And we're very excited that Kutluhan is here to share from his experience also how we can really work with our Mother Earth together to produce food, to sustain ourselves, and not to only become self-sustaining, but to become earth-sustaining. It's a different way of connecting. And this is something that we from the Circle Way living tribe trying to do in different forms, together as a community, but also with everything around us. And we're very excited to share this with you and to bring this out to everyone who wants to get to know more about this method and this wisdom. So whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes and feel that you are connected with this field, because we open the circle. We are a circle right now together. Everyone who is present right now in this session, but also we welcome everyone who's not here, but will be seeing this recording and will also join in this field and bring their wisdom again. So feel that we're opening the circle in a wider perspective and that we can welcome also everyone who is not here yet into the space. So, and come back to. So feel free to do that. So maybe just to go into introducing Kutluhan, I know that I could just pass on the word to him and start the sharing, but there's just a little story that I would like to share about his work, and something that also inspired me when going around trying different methods and learning about different ways of connecting with our earth. I met his work through going to a course of one of his students in the Netherlands. And that work truly inspired me, because his student could really share from his ways of what it means for him to really feel another connection with Mother Earth when he is farming, when he is standing on the land. And so much information has been passed on that I knew in my system, I knew in my mind, but the way it is done and the way it was feeling while we were in this gathering really changed something in me. I got a hope. I received hope that we can really work differently, and that we can align ourselves in a deeper connection with our mother. And it's something that I knew already. And that was a deep remembering of a connection that was already there if I would just listen. And it was just a day, so small seeds were just planted in my system. And then we started to connect with Kutluhan and his wife, and started hearing a little bit more around what his work is. We got the book and dived deeper into this knowledge. And right now we are at this point with the Circle Way tribe to also really start this way of being with nature. So it's an exciting journey for us. Very the way that you can relate, but it's also a very practical journey. It's something that activates, and something that we can all come together with and really do something around becoming and coming in a different relationship with our food and with our food system. And the story of Kutluhan, I researched him, I asked him some questions, and eventually I found out that already on the age of 24, he started his search, leaving his job as a mathematics researcher and going out and traveling around and finding farms that work the natural farming way, is inspired. And actually the students of directly Masanobu, it's a very difficult name, Fukuoka. And I probably pronounced it all wrong, but he will probably give me the correct name. And it's a book that I read actually already 10 years ago. A book of One Straw Revolution that maybe some of you know, and it goes into the roots of his research, of Masanobu's research into what it means to really observe nature and to be with it from a very different relating form. So afterwards, he volunteered on different farms, and he settled in Greece on a farm where he really got the firsthand, even more deeper experience, and where he learned a lot. And then his hands started to itch even more to start his own farm, the Shizan farm. And I think it's something that probably Kutluhan will be talking about far more. And but this journey is a very interesting one, because it brought Kutluhan and in our connection also in our field with a deeper understanding of how to spread the knowledge in a different form than I know of so many other wisdom keepers, and that's to keep it as much possible on a donation base. And I really want to mention that, because that inspires me so much also in our work, to really spread the work far more for everyone available, and make it for everyone available. So thank you, Kutluhan, also for this And I would love to give the word to you right now. And in the open question of what inspired you, what brought you to this, method, its philosophy, and whatever you wish to share as an introduction of your own self, your life, and this method.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the connection. Please feel free any moment if you like to share something or if you like to ask or say something. This is not a monologue, so we have the continuous exchange with each other. Please feel free about it. I would like to start my personal journey with natural farming, how I arrived here, how I started, and the path itself, basically, and in the present moment of the farm Shizen, how it is managed from a point of view of the cultivation, and also another important point, which I see that from a point of view of managing the farm economically as well. So all these points will be, let's say, like a presentation of the day. So me myself, I born and raised in a big city. Actually, it is one of the biggest city in Kurdistan, and I went to Istanbul to study. I had no contact with farming. If you would have shown me 15 years ago a plant of pepper or eggplant without fruit on it, I wouldn't be able to recognize it. Like I just say this to show the background, zero connection with farming. And I studied mathematics, and I did a master, and I started to do a PhD and teaching at the university, but always with an intention of understanding what was happening around me in this universe, in this existing, in this, let's say, the theater or cinema of the human form that we take for a limited time. So that was the reason why I chose to study mathematics. But I always had this call, inner call, that I was feeling within myself that I would end up living somewhere in the mountainside, not in the city, not in a even in a town. But it was very raw, this idea. It was not really taking a big shape in my life because of, let's say, what society imposed us to do. So I went to study and continued with it. And it reached to a point of I couldn't resist anymore. Like there was only way that I had to go. There was no other option, and my body was reacting to it. My mind was reacting to it. So only option was to start to move towards the mountainside. And I accepted this reality. I said, okay, I will make the step, but I need to grow my own food because I don't know how to do it, and I don't want to end up with a tractor or this or that, and I don't want to buy my food. So I need to be able to grow my food. Then I started to research how can I grow my food. This was the starting point for me. And I start reading about permaculture, about food forest or different way of regenerative agricultural techniques. And in the moment that I read the book of Fukuoka, the One Straw Revolution, I immediately felt in my heart that that was the call. That was the thing that touched my heart deeply and moved all my soul from its own place, basically. But it seemed like an utopia. Like I read all his books several times, and I was reading again and again, and I was still asking myself, okay, it sounds so beautiful, but how do I apply it? Everything was maybe I didn't receive it because I was not coming from a farmer background, or Fukuoka himself didn't want to transmit a strict way because he wanted to leave freedom to each person to walk in this path. So he didn't give, or in general, if you read his books, there are not so many practical informations, but he touched a lot in the philosophical part of natural farming. So that part was missing in me after reading his books. I didn't know how to apply in the practical level, and I decided to meet with his students. I said, okay, if this is the way, I will go and find them and learn directly from them. So that was the beginning of the journey. It took me almost 2 years, 1.5 year of mental preparation and emotional preparation of leaving everything, everything that I studied, the PhD that I just started. It was 1.5 years that I started to leave everything behind and then make such a step towards the unknown. It took some time, but in 2014, I was ready for it. I organized myself, I dropped everything. I took my backpack and start from Istanbul. And I went to, as a first stop, I went to Greece, where one of his students, called Panos Manikis, a direct student of Fukuoka, he was farming by the time. And it was over 30 years that he was farming with natural farming. So I went to visit him, and it was a very short visit, around 10 days, 2 weeks, because I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the application of natural farming in different climates and to meet with different students of Fukuoka. And I also wanted to find my way in all this process. So I had big desire of traveling. I didn't want to stop there. And I get some contacts from him, and they were mainly in South America. He gave me, I think, 4 or 5 contact information in South America. So I decided to go to South America after this. And within some months, I traveled to Brazil and started to visit those people who were with Fukuoka for some time. And then when they return back, they apply in their field natural farming. And I travel around South America around 2 years, from tropical climate to the desert climate to the mountain climate to the sea climate, in different parts and different applications, and each of them had different way of approaching natural farming. Some of them had animals, some of them they didn't have animals, some of them were cultivating only vegetables and fruits, some also grains. So everyone found their own way, and the common point was alive soil in all these places, very rich and fertile soil, and happy farmers. And it was like a light in the society, those places. In each place that this farm was located, in the town, everyone knew about it, and everyone was happily going to buy their products from those farms, and they were going there even for some trainings, for some time as volunteers or visitors. So each of this farm was like a light in the society. That was a very beautiful thing to discover for me. And after 2 years of traveling and visiting different farms, volunteering, living together with those people, I was ready for farming by myself. I felt really ready for it. It was the right moment I was feeling in me. Then I returned back to Europe with an intention of finding a piece of land and start to farm by my own. Still with an idea of going to mountainside and living there alone. This was my intention up to that moment. I travel a lot, also in Europe. I went to Portugal, Spain, Italy, and I spent maybe 5 to 6 months traveling around and looking for a land. And I didn't have money, so I couldn't find any place. They told me actually to go to Portugal. It was very cheap by the time, and you will see some lands, which I did. I went to Portugal, stayed there over 2 months. It was very cheap, but I didn't have any money anyway, so I couldn't buy anything. And then I one day I called Panos, again the students of Fukuoka in Greece. I called him and I said, "Look, I come back from South America, but I don't know what to do. I don't have a land. I don't have money. I don't want to end up in a city or in an apartment. So can I come to volunteer in your farm till I find another place? At least in the meantime, I am still farming." That was okay for him, and I went to Greece after this response, which was in 2016. And after some months that I was there with him, maybe 7 to 8 months later, Panos said he wanted to retire. He was old, he was not able to manage the farm anymore, and he wanted to do other things in his life, connect with his family members. He didn't have his own family, so he wanted to be close to his sister. His health problems also came, and he didn't want to farm anymore, but he wanted to share some practical things about natural farming with people. And then he asked me if I would be interested in buying his farm. And it was like a dream for me. Like, it was way more than what I was expecting. I was ready to find an empty land, and then all of a sudden he asked me if I would be interested in buying a natural farm that was already going on more than 30 years. I remember that there were some nights I couldn't even fall asleep. I was so excited after this episode. And I told him that I don't have any money, that I cannot afford. So we made a deal. He said, "You can buy half of the farm, but I will not be here. So you can run the whole farm and pay me out of the income that you will get from the farm," which this was the deal. And but I was okay with it. I stayed in Greece around 4 years and some months, almost 5 years, a bit less than 5 years. And that was the moment I actually became or awakened something in me about being a farmer, because up to that moment I was still with an intention of having maybe some 1,000 square meters of land and grow my own food and have a simple life, not interested in farming in a professional level, selling the products or organizing workshops, or none of these things were really present in me. I just wanted to have a piece of land and grow my food. And one day he showed me a letter from Fukuoka that it was one of the last letter that Fukuoka wrote to Panos, actually. And in this letter, and Fukuoka was saying that you cannot create a piece of paradise and live there alone. You have to open this space for anyone and who wants to taste the paradise in this earth. And this is the real call of natural farming. I remember after reading this letter, it was really a lot of things were moving in me, like for weeks and weeks. And something changed in me after that moment. And I decided not to have just a piece of land for myself and cultivate, but said, okay, let's create a paradise and share all together. If this is this was the call, or let's say the seeds of Fukuoka that he was sowing in the hearts of his students. And yeah, I also felt deeply in my heart in that moment. So I decided to take that way. And fortunately, it was the only place that I really experienced of becoming a farmer. Up to that moment, I was volunteering in different farms, but I was simply involving in the daily tasks of the farm and not involving in anything related to, let's say, the selling part of the productions. But in Edessa, in Greece, in Panos farm, after 7 to 8 months, he dropped me some books of some connections, some contact informations of people that I could sell the products, and I could call them and tell them what we have in the moment and then sell. And he left. So all of a sudden, I found myself in a country, in a farm where I don't speak the language and where I didn't know literally anyone. And it was very difficult at the beginning. Like I remember there was a day I was walking in the farm and the trees were full of fruits, and like the cherries, they were like just simply hang, like some branches were almost touching to the ground. They were so full, and I was walking around and I didn't know what to do. Like he dropped me a phone numbers, but I didn't speak any Greek, or I didn't know. I tried to call some of them, but they were not speaking in English. So I was in the farm and sitting, looking around, and I saying, okay, what am I gonna do with all these things? Like I'm not able to take care of it. I was almost crying in that day. I remember very well. And then, fortunately, then some people started to come, volunteers. They were Greek people, and one of them were really. We became a very good friends afterwards. He's called Padelis, and he somehow took in the hand of this managing the communications and the calls and organizing the shipping of the products. So then it started to take a serious place. And this is the experience that gave me the idea of, or let's say, matured me to become a farmer. This was the place that I said, okay, I would like to do this not for myself, only for myself, but I would like to do this in a professional way as well, to become a farmer and live out of it. And then also slowly, the workshop idea came. I went several times with Panos, the workshop that he was organizing, and slowly it took a form of sharing with anyone who is interested. And still today, these workshops are going on, and it started all for free. Like there is no price. We don't ask any money for it. It is workshops are for free. We just like there is a hat that we turn in the end of the workshop, so free donation. And if anyone wants, can donate something. If not, it's a free choice. Still today is like this in Italy, but in some other countries this was not possible, like in Belgium, Holland, or in US. And now we are talking with some people in Australia. They said the culture wise we need to put certain price in order to cover the expenses, and donation is not really for in our culture. So this was the response, and this is the reason why maybe you see prices in the workshops that are organized in the Netherlands and in Belgium. But if you join any workshop in Italy, it is all for free, and there is no charge basically. And it is there is a reason for it, because it is not a time of, like, first of all, this is not an information that is coming from me or coming even from Fukuoka. This is simply we all carry this information within ourselves. It is just in a place that we don't look since a long time, and it gets maybe dusty, it gets covered with other things, with the informations that we learned over the time, but it is always there. It is simply a matter of holding a little light there and discovering again all these wisdoms that we already carry within ourselves. And it is not a time of, like, we are living the moments that it is not a joke anymore. we came as the humanity to the end of a process that either we seriously take a different path, or very likely that we will destroy ourselves together with the whole planet. So if anyone has a little, even a drop of water that is offering to the path in a change, creating the paradise in this earth, it is not a moment of selling this. So it is a moment of sharing this with anyone who is interested, so that we can be more walking in this way to higher the consciousness of the whole universe and bring beauty to this planet. So this is the reason why Fukuoka himself, Panos himself, and all his students himself, and also today still the workshops, they are there is no money involved, like they are free of charge. And I would like to also say that in some workshops that we organized, there were some money left over, and those money also goes to the association in order to support the projects mainly in Africa, that you can also see it on the social media, that we have different projects. And one of them, main one that we took a serious place, and then it is even becoming a training center in Kenya and in an orphanage. I have been there 2 times, and last time I was there in December. And they took it very seriously, and they today almost 80% of their food they cultivate in their field, and just some things like oil or some other products they are not able to process it. They cultivate the sunflower, but they are not able to make the process to turn it into oil. So certain things they need to buy, but over 80% of what they eat, between grains and vegetables and some fruits, today they are cultivating 100% in a natural farming way. You can see some videos and informations as well. So this is basically what, if donations come in the workshops in Italy when we have the head that is turning around, or if some money remains in the abroad workshops, this is what it supports. And I would like to also talk about the Farm Shizen, how it started, in which point it is now, and also one of the important thing I would like to underline, because often I get this question in different occasions from different people: can you live with natural farming? So basically the economical aspects of it, because people say, okay, it is beautiful, it is a beautiful dream, utopia, but can you really live out of it? So this will be the main topics maybe that we are going to talk. So Farm Shizen basically is located in central Italy, in Marche region, around 200 kilometers south of Bologna. Maybe you know Bologna. In an altitude of 320, 330 meter above the sea level, on a foothill of the Apennine Mountains, and in a valley almost it is forgotten. So most of the farmers from this valley, they left because it was not convenient anymore to live here, and there are no jobs. So they all left for the big cities, and big agriculture industry, they never really entered this valley. This was also one of the main reason why I choose this place, because it is very hilly and it is not eligible for their giant machines. And it was not very they prefer mainly the flatlands closer to the seasides. So this is one of the valley that remain totally untouched from the big industry. And there are rivers, spring water that we drink every day, that we go buy food to gather our water, which is around 300 meters. and rivers passing from the valley. And yeah, it is very beautiful, and you are all welcome in any moments that you would like to come. And I would be honored and happy for it. And it was almost 5 years ago that I arrived here the first time. A friend showed me, and I still remember it was a day in October. I came, I sit down, and whole day I didn't hear one single car passing. And I was just hearing the birds singing and the water, the stream that was running. And I said, okay, this is the place. So this is where I would like to be, live, and farm. And this is how the journey started to, let's say, the farm Shizen. And in the first year, this is an important part I would like to share, to be realistic. And for me, the goal in the first year was not to earn money out of farming. The first year, the goal was only produce our food, to be as close as possible to self-sufficiency from a point of view of our food. This was my intention. And we were able to reach there. We were able to grow all our food. And the second year, the goal was to be able to grow all our food and also to cover the expenses of the farm. Not my or our living expenses, but only the expenses of the farm, which means we needed to buy some wheelbarrows, still some seeds, some farming tools, and I needed to buy some hay and straw and some manure I bought in the first year. So this was the goal for the second year: grow our food and to cover the expenses of the farm. And we were able to reach there. And the third year, the main goal of the farm was to be able to grow our food and cover all our living expenses, which includes the heating costs, electricity bills, the water bills, and obviously also the farm expenses. And we were able to reach there. And in the fourth year, which was the last season, last summer season, the main goal was to start living out of the farm and like to grow all our food, cover our expenses, and to be able to sustain ourselves only by farming activities, which means selling our products. And we didn't get 100%, but almost 70 to 80% we were covered. I have a daughter also. She's now 6.5 years old. And basically we were able to last year cover all our needs. People that are coming to farm, that we can be easily over 20 people from April till November. We are on average, we are 15 to 20 people. If you come any moment between April and November, this is the number of the people that you will find in the farm. And so we are eating all from the farm, that what we cultivate. And we grow also some grains and rye in order to make our bread and homemade pasta. And all vegetables are coming from the farm. And fruit trees, we had some apple. There were around, maybe all in all, 60, 70 fruit trees that were in production already, that were planted many years ago, in between apple, pear, plums, and some cherries. Not very big quantity, but still there were at least some trees that were enough for us to eat. Not to sell, but it was enough for us to eat. And now also the trees that we planted in the first year, they started to produce. This is the fifth year that we are entering. Actually, nowadays they are all are in flower. So, and last year we harvested the first fruits that were planted 4 years ago, and now this season will be the 5th season from the moment that we planted the new trees, and probably there will be more stable and serious harvest. Please, Anya. Okay. And from a point of view of the trees, that in the first year I was able to plant 100 fruit trees, and this was also, it is like it was one of the sentences of Fukuoka, but obviously he was referring a big biodiversity. People were asking to him when he came to Greece. So what should I do in the first year? This was one of the main common questions that they were asking to him. And he was saying, plant 100 different trees that are all growing in your area, and then sow 100 different varieties of seeds, and keep on repeating this action. So as simple as it is that he said it. So I decided to follow his instructions as well. And I planted in the first year 100 fruit trees, all mix. And some of them were forestal trees, some of them were medicinal trees, and all the fruit trees that grow in our area, I mixed them and then planted them. And I was not able to sow 100 different varieties of seeds, but I started maybe 20 to 30 different varieties of seeds. And the second year, I was able to plant over 200 trees. And the third year, I planted again another 250 trees. And this winter, it was let's say it was one of the points where Fukuoka also repeatedly says, after 3 to 4 years of practicing natural farming, you will see the changes. And he was referring the changes in the soil, awakening the soil. But this at the same time also means the harvest and the whole process itself. So last year, the year was very successful. We were able to plant almost 1 hectare of vegetable garden. So that means very big harvest, and that allowed us also to survive economically, almost to be self-sufficient also economically. So this year we planted all in all almost 700 trees in the farm. In one big order, we get 601 trees, and then some other smaller orders. So we get almost 700 trees that were planted in the farm. So within 4 or 5 years, it will become a jungle. Let's see. And yeah, this was the more, and we are actively in the first years, we had 2 hectares of land, and this was the land, the surface that I started. And in the first year, I started only with 1 hectare of land. I didn't touch the other hectare. I was not able to stay behind, and I knew that it was beyond then my capacities. And if I would put my hands in the second hectare, probably it would be very energy consuming, and I wouldn't be able to make it 100% in both parcels, basically. So I decided to have 1 hectare and give myself fully there. I didn't even touch the second hectare. Only thing I did was just sow the cover crop, but I didn't plant any trees. I didn't put any vegetable garden. I just sow the cover crops. This was the only action that I did. So we started with 1 hectare, and the second year still with 1 hectare. I was really staying behind fully 100%. And in the third year, I was feeling that that initial hectare that I was seriously staying behind was getting to the point of almost no interacting. The soil structure was changing. There were not need of there was not a need of bringing any material from outside, hay or straw or manure. It was simply turning into black soft soil. And I said, from this moment onwards, in this hectare, only thing I need to do is to sow cover crop. And the trees were planted because it was the 100 trees and 200 trees and then another 250 trees, always in the same hectare. So it was all area was already planted with trees and bushes. And the cover crops were taking place in the farm, and they started to reseed themselves as well. So workload was getting less and less. And in the end of the third year, there was almost nothing else to do apart from sowing seeds. So then I decided to start with another hectare. And that was the moment, which was 1.5 years ago from today backwards. I decided to plant trees and also use as a vegetable garden the other hectare. And still it is on the way of, let's say, awakening. And in the meantime, and we get other 2 hectares of land in the disposition of the farm Shizen that was donated to become a, let's say, to turn to this place in a, don't know how to call, I don't want to call educational center, but practical center, maybe that's a better word. So we get donated another 2 hectares of land, which is the neighboring lands where where we planted also some of those 700 trees in this year. And I am not going to make a vegetable garden there in this moment. Very likely that this year the vegetable garden area will be around somewhere between 1 hectare and 1.5 hectare. And only work is to do already since the last year that convinced me to make a vegetable garden in such a large scale, because I don't know, have you ever experienced taking care of a vegetable garden, but 1 hectare of vegetable garden is like really, really big area for a vegetable production. But what convinced me to start with it, basically, in the whole area, I was sowing constantly the cover crops and cutting them in the moment that needed to be cut. So repeating this action for 3 years, the soil was really soft and it was ready. It was getting really turning into dark color. When you walk on it, it almost feels like a sponge. And many animals, they started to be present in the soil. And then I said, okay, this is the moment where I can simply cut the cover crop and plant the vegetable seeds and the plants in whole farm. So basically, when I say making a hectare of vegetable garden, it means this: simply cutting the cover crop, and you just simply remove it, open it, and then plant the seeds or the transplant the plants. So this was the main action of taking care of the vegetable garden. And it will be the same also this year. Do you have any question up to this moment? Anything that you would like to share?
Perhaps, Kutluhan, you could explain, just I know some people are quite new also to natural farming, and I love your way of storytelling and your experience, how you use it. Could you perhaps give a little bit more insight in how the work of natural farming is really going in
You mean the
in
practical level?
practical side of it? Yeah.
So basically, there are different approaches, there are different paths that you can take. One, which is the simplest one, which means you can simply make the seed balls and throw to the field continuously over years and years in each spring and autumn. So this will lead you to the same point of awakening the soil, to have a fertile soil. But it will take long time. And this is the path that nature takes, actually. What nature does is continuously to sow seeds, many seeds, again and again, no other interactions. This is what nature is doing. So you can also do this. Simply either sow a lot of seeds or to make seed balls that allows us to reduce the quantity of the seeds that we are sowing, because it protects the seeds by eaten by the animals. So you keep on sowing seeds or seed balls, and you will get to the point of the fertile soil. It might take to see the good results around 8 to 10 years if you choose this path, like with no interaction, no touching to the soil, but simply just imitating what nature is doing, which is sowing seeds. And if you do this, it will take around 8 to 10 years to see the changes in the soil from a point of view of the fertility. But if you like to fasten this process, we can interact. We can do certain things to fasten this process. We can reduce the timings with minimum interactions. So basically, what we can do in the first moment is we will talk with the details and the meanings of it and the effects and also the side effects of it during the workshop. But basically, what we can do is, as the first action, is to cut the soil. If you don't do this, if you don't cut the soil, which simply means having a grill net, or if we are talking about a larger surface, a tool that is called a ripper that enters in the soil and it cuts. This is the movement that it is making, or the grill net is making like this. It enters the soil, it moves like this, and then comes out. And main idea that we are doing this, it is because if you observe the soil, that we cut all the vegetation. Where there are no trees, no bushes, not even the grasses are growing because modern agriculture had hands on it. And we plowed over many years. So those soils, they lose most of their lives, their organic matters. And then it ends up with a thick clay surface or a with sandy surface, basically, either one or another, depending on your position. But very likely this will be clay soil. And if you reach to that point, which will be the 90% of the agricultural lands in this planet, if you go and choose any random agricultural land, very likely that you will find this heavy clay compacted soil. In certain areas, it can be sandy soil, especially in the Netherlands, you can find those soil structures, but rest in 90% of the cases in this planet, you will find heavy clay compacted soil, which we will also talk during the workshop why this happens. But anyway, if we end up in such a place, so basically to cut the soil, it creates the condition that again water and air can penetrate into the soil, because where there is no water and no air, there is no life. It is as simple as it is. So our intention is to bring back the life as quick as possible in this piece of land. So in order to create the life, as the first step, there needs to be air and water. So this is the reason why we cut the soil. And it is different than plowing the soil. Plowing makes this movement. This is the action of plowing. And it leaves you almost like a flower. It kills everything. All the life that is there, all the insects, all the living beings that are present in the soil. You can think like a cake. You have a cake. If you plow, makes this movement, in the end, you don't have a cake. it is all destroyed. But cutting the soil is simply cutting the cake in a slice. You have the knife and you make cuts in this cake. In the end, you still have the full cake. It is not destroyed, the structure of it. So this is the differences between plowing and cutting the soil. If you don't do this, if you don't cut the soil with a grill net, which is a hand tool, or a ripper, which is a tool that is used with a motor. This can be a little tractor or a very little agricultural motors that you can use that are around 80 to 90 kilo. Or even if once and only time you can use a tractor with a ripper. Or you can choose not to do and let the nature do also this process, which is sowing seeds. So what will happen is that when you sow seeds, in the first year, just making an example, maybe you sow a field bean as a cover crop because it has a very strong taproot that will break the soil. It will work in the same way as what we are doing, basically, that we cut the soil with an intention of penetrating the water and the air again. But let's suppose you don't do it, but you sow seeds. The plants will do the same action, but it will just take a longer time. First year, maybe they will be able to put 30 centimeter of their roots because they find a very compact clay surface. In the second year, this will be 50 centimeter. Maybe in the third year, it will be 60 centimeter. So you will arrive to the same point. It will just take longer. Nature will do the same process, but it will take longer. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I was just wondering, because we have a clay ground, but I feel it's very fertile. And we also have actually placed a garden where we are already 4 years working on the soil. But how do you for everyone's idea, how do you assess if you need to do this step? Like, I mean, if you want to accelerate a little bit the process, how can you assess if the ground would like to be opened up to that is when is it condensed? Like, how do you assess that?
Well, first of all, clay is a very good material actually. Like clay soil is much better than a sandy soil from a point of view of going towards the fertility, because clay, as it is own structure, it keeps a lot of minerals, and also the organic matter if it is present. So starting with a clay soil, it is faster and easier compared to starting with a sandy soil. But as the organic material reduces, clay tends to become very compact, which doesn't allow the plants to put their roots. And this leads to a condition of many vegetables are not able to grow very well, or even the cover crop in the first year, they are not able to grow very well because they find this hard surface. So if we are talking about a small vegetable garden, you can simply have a grill net, this hand tool. And even now this is a very good time actually. You can pass with a grill net and right before starting the vegetable garden. And this action will break this compacted clay and let the air and water penetrate and the plants will be able to put their roots well in the soil. So break the clay, in order to break the clay, if you are talking about a small vegetable garden, the best thing is to pass with a grill net. You can, like as we said, you can also not do it and let the cover crops or let plants, let nature, sorry, let nature do the same action, but it will just take a longer time. Just to make an example, in the first year, when I arrived here, I didn't have any tool. I didn't have grill net. I didn't even know anyone. So I simply sow seeds without touching the soil. I could if I had the grill net, I would have passed with grill net, but I didn't have it. Only thing I had was I was able to buy a site, which you can easily go to the next shop and buy, but grill net is not such a tool that you can find. You need to order. So I bought a site and I cut the grasses and I sow the cover crop. So this was the first thing that I did in that hectare. And the first year, what I saw as a cover crop, the field bean, which was a very cheap seed that I was able to find, and that allowed me to sow in a big quantity. And the growth was only this. The plant was able to grow not even half a meter. And the second year, again, I didn't have the grill net. And when I made the seeding, and in that moment, the field bean was able to grow a bit less than a meter. And in the third year, there was an area I didn't still pass with grill net, but I kept on sowing. The field bean grow over 1.5 meter. And in the fourth year, the field bean was taller than me, always in the same area with no interaction with grill net. So it reached over 2 meters. Like it was, when I was entering into the field, I was lost in the field basically. Like you couldn't see any human inside. It was such a tall. But in the other hectare that I mentioned that we started after 3 years, where I had used the grill net, where I had the tool, and the same result came already within the first year, that field bean was able to grow almost 2 meters high. So you can choose one or another. It will lead to the same point. It will just take a bit longer in the other way. This is the differences. And if you like to start a vegetable garden today, in order to eat in this summer, just like already now, very likely that in the Netherlands the grasses are still very short. I don't think they start to grow already. So pass one time with grill net, so that you break the soil, and then use an organic material, which is also the part that we will be talking during the workshop, that you might also choose not to use it. And again, it will take longer time to arrive there. But if you use it, it will give the first kick, first push, because we are starting from a land which was destroyed by modern agriculture in many years. We cut the trees, we cut the forest, and we plow the soil, and maybe we use chemicals in that piece of land, and there is almost no life. So if you want to fasten this process, to give a bit of support in the first year, you can use some organic material. This can be manure, this can be compost, this can be worm compost. Any kind of organic material is fine. If you don't want to use it, you can also choose not to use it, but then accept that it will take longer, the process. This is up to you. But anyway, let's say first pass with grill net if you are starting now, and lay down some organic material. Simply lay down on the surface of the soil. You don't need to mix or touch to the soil. And then a good layer of mulch, which is straw and hay. If you can get these two materials and mix with each other, and then to put it on the top of the organic matter that you lay down on the surface of the soil, and then just leave it as it is. Within 2 weeks of time, 10 days, 2 weeks, when you return and open the mulch, you will already see that most of the grasses that were there, they will die because they will not have access to sunlight. The roots can be still alive because 2 weeks is not a very long time, but the vegetative part will be dead. So in that moment, simply remove the mulch, which we are going to also do it together in June. So remove the mulch, see the surface of the soil where you lay down the organic material. In the first year, this will be important to have a tool that simply scratch the surface of the soil. in the first year, only the first year. Then you will not need it anymore, because you will find a very soft, totally black soil within the second year onward. But in the first year, still there will be the roots of the wild grasses. They are living there maybe, who knows, over 30, 40 years. So it is not possible that within 2 weeks of time, they totally disappear in the vegetable garden area. So open the mulch. You can have a hoe or even a little shovel and any kind of hand tool. Simply scratch the first centimeter of the soil. First centimeters, couple of centimeters, not more. So that you can prepare a surface where you can sow your seeds or transplant the plants. So this will be the main action of the preparation of the vegetable garden in the first year. And if you notice, most of the materials we brought from outside, which is the manure, if you want to use, and straw and hay, we simply get it from external resources. But we are talking about a farming system that has to be close. Like if everyone decides to make this, and if everyone needs straw and hay that is coming from outside, so who, like where do these materials are coming from? It is not sustainable. We cannot continuously bring from outside, because that also means in order to make fertile my land, I am taking the fertility from another piece of land, which is mainly the hay and the straw, that they have to fall in the place that they are growing so that the natural cycle can continue. That piece of land can become fertile. But in the moment that you take those organic materials, or you can call it biomass as well, you take from place A and bring it to place B, basically you are taking the fertility from place A and bringing to place B. So in the long run, it is not sustainable. It is not even possible to go on like this. Imagine whole world all of a sudden decides to apply this way of farming. So where do the hay and straw come from? It cannot work. But in the first moment, we bring from outside again with an intention of fasten the process. And you can also choose not to bring, which is the moment that where we come in autumn, where we start sowing the cover crops. So we prepare the garden today and we put spring and summer crops and we eat. And as the autumn comes, we start sowing cover crop with an intention of fertilizing the land, bringing back the life again to this piece of land, because the more the life exists above the soil, the more the life exists below the soil. So if you see dense vegetation below the soil, above the soil, that means there is a dense life forms below the soil. Most of the microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, they are living around the roots of the plants. Like if you go to a desert land, as you don't see any vegetation above the soil, there will not be a life below the soil as well, or that will be very limited, because most of the microorganisms, they can live only in a symbiotic relationship with the roots of the plants. So the more the vegetation there is, the more fertility exists, or you are going towards the fertility in this piece of land. And this is where the real fertility comes from. The real fertility doesn't come from the manure that we bring. The real fertility doesn't come from the straw and hay that we bring from outside, but the real fertility is coming from the cover crop seeds that we are sowing there, because they allow most of the soil life to live in that piece of land, in the roots of those plants. And this is the direction that we go towards the fertility. But in the first year, in the first moment, we make certain preparation to fasten this process, which is cutting the soil, maybe adding some organic material and bringing straw and hay from outside so that we can be faster. You can also choose not to do it. I want to repeat again this part. And then anyway, autumn comes and we start sowing the cover crop seeds with an intention of bringing back the life and fertility to the soil, and also to grow our own mulch material. Because when you sow the cover crops in autumn and the next season comes, passes the whole autumn, winter, and we come again the spring next year, when the cover crops grow, and right before, around a week or 10 days before we start the vegetable garden, you will enter the field and you will cut the cover crops. And when you do it in the first year after you sow the cover crop, so basically when you cut your cover crops first time, still there will not be enough mulch material to cover the vegetable garden whole summer. It will be very little. So again, we need to bring some mulch material from outside, which is straw and hay. And we will repeat the same action also in the second year. Sowing cover crop in autumn, cutting the cover crop in the following springtime, right before the moment that we start the vegetable garden. And again, in that moment, it will not be enough to have the mulch material whole summertime. Again, we bring materials from outside, straw and hay. So we are in the third year of our vegetable garden, and since 2 years we are sowing the cover crops. And we repeat again in the third year the same action, to sow the cover crops in autumn and cut it in the springtime. And this is the moment where the soil will reach to its own maximum capacity. If you stay behind in a serious way, in these 4 years that we started farming, and since 3 years that we are sowing the cover crops, this is the point where the soil will reach its own maximum productivity from a point of view of the cover crops that we are sowing, and also the vegetable garden that we will have. And from that moment onward, when you cut your cover crops, it will leave enough mulch material for the whole summer season. So this was the reason last year in the farm season I decided to have 1 hectare of vegetable garden, because it was the first year when I cut the whole cover crop, I saw that there was enough mulch material for the whole summer vegetable garden. I didn't need to bring anything from outside, which it was not possible even for me to bring hay and straw for 1 hectare of land. It was literally not possible from a point of view of the energy, money, and also the time. So in a small piece of land, I choose to bring materials from outside, which was maybe in the first year only 200 square meter, and then it was 500 square meter. And in the third year, it was maybe around 2000 square meter. But then when the fourth year came, which was all the part that I didn't bring any material from outside, which is manure, straw, and hay, but I simply sow the cover crops. And it was the moment I said, okay, those parts where I don't bring material from outside still reach to the point of having enough mulch material. So now I can simply cut the cover crop and then start planting vegetables everywhere. So which is that hectare of vegetable garden basically. And from that moment onward, only action that you need to do is continuously sow seeds in autumn and cut it a bit before the moment that you start the vegetable garden. This will be the only action that you need to repeat. Please.
Yes, I was also really curious about the no weeding, like because I heard about it and I just realized that I think for many people who are used to work in the garden, it's like the main activity, right? Like you have certain plants that you see as like these are useful ones. We love them, and you want them, and you want them to be healthy and productive. And then there's other ones you're just like, no, not that one again. And it's like overgrowing your garden, and you have negativity towards it. And of course, we want to embrace all plants, but still, how do you like deal with this sort of little like tingling of, oh, I have to take this out because it will take over, because it's this competition feeling, like if all the nutrition will go to maybe this one plant that we don't think we want to, then the other one will not have enough nourishment. And could you explain a little bit about that and how you deal with this? Or also for me personally, but also to explain to others, because I hear it so much that people are just like, yeah, I really want to do it naturally, but I just can't. I just see it and I just want to take it out.
I would like to say one thing, and then if Wim accepts, I would like to give the word to Wim, which is a pleasure for me and honor for me. But I would like to just say one thing before. Within all these 4 years that planting in Farm Shizen and another or more than 4 years in Greece, in another 2 years in South America, I never weed in my life. Like just to tell you, the weeding was the only action that was never present in the vegetable garden, which we will see like more details how it is possible, but it is an action that never took a place basically. And another thing is no watering, which is very tough, especially in the first year that I used some water. But since 2 years now, in apart from transplanting, there is no more watering. Like we don't have irrigation system, for example, like 1 hectare of vegetable garden with no irrigation system. There is a hole that in the moment there is if there is a need or late seeding, like for example, we make 2 seeds, one in May and one in July. So if I make a seeding in July, the beans for the autumn harvest, then obviously I need to water till they germinate and till they reach to certain growth. Otherwise they cannot germinate. We have over 35 degrees. Like this summer especially, we had even almost 40 degrees for 7-8 weeks constantly. And we had no rain more than 4 months. And those little rains that fall after 4 months, it was almost nothing, but zero watering basically, especially in the last 2 years. Apart from summer seeding or transplanting, there is no watering involved. So about the weeding, I would like to ask Wim how, if he feels like answering. The microphone is off, Wim.
I am gardening all my life, from traditional farming to organic farming to permaculture and so on. So weeding is something that was in my system very, very much. But that's not what I was in my system. So I am, well, it's not present anymore. That's what I can say now with natural farming. But I wanted to add something else about the cover crops, because when how I do it is that my piece of land is so big and more than big enough that I alternate, or that I change every year the piece of land where I garden. So, and that means that I can sow my cover crops and let them grow fully, a whole year, harvest the seeds. So I have my own seeds, and then at the end of the year, I can cut them, and then in spring I use that part of land to start my vegetable garden, and I sow the cover crops in the other part of the garden, and that brings me to the point that I can have my own seeds very easily, because they are grown to their fully maturity, the plants. That's how I do it. And something about weeds, I had it was only grass as I started, and for a long time it were very hardy grasses with very strong rootstocks. And so I didn't know how it would be, but I can tell you already the first year, it was 90% of the grass disappeared. So it was, for me, it was a miracle, because I never thought that such such strong grasses couldn't survive, but it really was that way. So grasses, they are there, but here and there some, and not more. And yeah, that's how it works at my place. I'm just 2 years, started 2 years ago in spring 2023, yes, and now it's spring 2025. But yeah, that's the way I work, with the alternating of the cover crops, and then the other year I do the other parts, my vegetable garden, and so. But that's just another way, I think. It's yes, I can do that. Okay. Yeah. I'm not so good at this. Okay, that's what I wanted to say about that topic.
Thank you, Wim. No, weeding will not take a place. Like as Wim said also, like in the first year, you can find one plant here, some plant there, especially those with the woody roots. That is possible, but after the first year onward also, like there is no weeding. And the reason why there is no weeding is basically you grow the cover crops, and when you cut them, you create a good layer of mulch. It's almost like this. So this mulch layer that is blocking all the weeds that is in order to come through the mulch. So this is the reason why you don't have weeding, because there is the mulch material that is blocking them. And in autumn, when the autumn comes, if you don't sow cover crop, then the weeds would return. But as you are sowing quickly the cover crops, and first things that are germinating and taking a place again in that area is the cover crops that you sow. Of course, there are some seeds also nature sows, but you call weeds, like although they are simply living beings sown by nature. They come, but main vegetation in the area is the cover crops that we sow. And this action repeats. You cut the cover crops and you have the mulch. So whole summer, spring and summer, you have the good mulch layer. So that blocks the weeds. And autumn comes, you sow the cover crops. So this is the circle of the vegetable garden. And please, Anya.
I think you were about to say something very important. So
I will say, but please, you take it, please.
Another question that we had within the preparation, we actually prepared our inner garden right now exactly the way you were talking about. So there's a big mulch layer, and underneath we have manure, And we saw, like, it's amazing to see how already thick and rich the soil became in a few weeks' time. It's really,
you observe already how, okay.
yeah. And we did also some experiments with different layer types and how thick and in different ways, and you just really see a difference. And the thicker it is, the better. So that was definitely true. What I was curious about also in our process right now, what would be your advice in planting and the seeding phase? Because there's this theory, of course, of how we do in kind of monoculture the same plants in the same area. And we were just curious what you would say around this topic and what you would advise when it comes to seeding.
Well, this is, let's say, a bit depends on also on your needs. What I mean is that, for example, last year when we had over an hectare of vegetable garden, there were some parts, and my main intention was to grow and sell, obviously, also the crops. So I decided, in order to facilitate to harvest and sellings in not whole the area, but there were some parts, for example, one line of tomatoes and one line of zucchinis and one line of pepper and eggplants, but all the rest were mixed. So basically, let's say maybe 3,000 square meter of rows we had, especially the salads, cherry tomatoes, and small peppers and the eggplants. So these were some crops that had line, always within the same application, same technique, same way of farming. It is just straight line within the mulch. So we remove the mulch in a way that it's a straight line and planted those 5 crops that I mentioned. And the reason why I did this, because somebody can easily come to farm, which is one of the way that we sell our products. They come to farm and they say, I would like to have a box of vegetables. So in that moment, I would like to be quick to be able to harvest. So I choose to have this 3,000 square meter of the garden area in the lines. But all the rest, it was simply mixed. It was like a little jungle, basically. If you come in this summer, you will experience also this. But yeah, this is a bit depends on your needs and on your what would you like to do. If you don't need to sell, if it is only for you, simply mix everything all together, and every time when you go to garden, it is like a journey, basically, that you find one plant here, one plant over there. It becomes a little game, basically.
And how does your seeding process look like? Do you just put it all in a box, you shake, and you just seed it, or how do you do this?
Also, yeah, not always. Like, for example, especially this seeding that we are going to, like, in next week, probably we will start with all the greens, like the salads and rucola, the roca, then how do you call it, the parsley and celery, and like basically all the greens. I just mix the seeds and then sow them in these lines that we open in the mulch. But obviously, I don't do this with tomato, pepper, eggplant, let's say, like those crops. So depends on what you are going to sow, basically. But sometimes we do this, we just mix, or Swiss chard, pak choy, all these leafy vegetables that we eat the leaves. I mix the seeds and then sow together. But there are some lines, as I said, I would like to have only tomatoes, maybe with some other crops, but not 5, 6 crops all together. Then I put only tomato seeds in those lines.
And just one other question that I had also coming season and right now starting this process. What do you pre-pot, like put in pots, and what do you put immediately into the soil as seeds? What would you advise on this when it comes to doing it more natural way?
Everything we make direct seedings, everything, including tomato, pepper, and eggplants. But those mainly these three crops, we also do the seedlings because this allows you to start earlier. Like now we already have tomato, eggplant, and pepper in the little greenhouse that we have just for the seedling. So we make little plants and transplant them, but also make the direct seeding. So we do both. But seedlings mainly for these three main crops. Because like a pepper takes almost a month to germinate and another month to reach to this height. So like in order to harvest earlier, you need to start a bit earlier. And especially in the climate like in the Netherlands, I think like I doubt that you can make direct seeding and really hard, like maybe you can eat a few fruits, but if you make direct seeding end of mid-May, I don't know if you can really harvest even in a serious quantity, to be honest. So better that you start a bit earlier, and then this allows you to eat in a longer time period. And one important thing that I would like to say, it looks so beautiful, like it sounds also very beautiful, so easy, which really is actually, but there is always path itself that we need to consider, like especially in the first years when you start to this journey, there will be some things that like it will not be in the first year you put the plants and you make a perfect harvest. This will not happen. Like this is a process of awakening the soil, to bringing back the fertility. It needs time. It is like growing a child. A child can be an independent living being. It will be an independent living being, but not in the moment that it borns. So it is the same as awakening the soil. It will reach to a point of a perfect balance, but not in the first year that you put your hands and start working in this process. It is possible that you will have, especially in your climate, you will have a lot of issues in the first year with snails and slugs. Accept it. It will happen. There is no way that you can stop it. And even if you stop it, please remember that every time you interact with them, you are actually slowing down the process of awakening the soil. The more that you go there and you pick the snails and you remove from your garden, you are slowing down the process. Let them eat, let them come as much as they want. And you can simply look within even yourself that a population cannot grow continuously. Like it is impossible. It is against the law of nature. A population can grow till a certain point, and then their predators will arrive. And then their predators will arrive. Their predators will arrive. This is how nature works. So the same thing will happen also for snails and slugs. And in your climate, you will face a lot of snails and slugs in the first year, maybe in the first 2 years. I don't know. But my personal experience in Italy, in the first year when we make the vegetable garden, and the autumn came, we planted maybe 100 different seedlings, plants for winter vegetables, and we make seedlings with 100 we make seedings with 100 vegetables plants as well. So all in all we had 200 plants, 100 of them from seedling and 100 directly coming from seeds. And in that winter vegetable garden we had zero harvest, like literally zero, not even one single plant, like not even one plant. And we were 5 people. In every evening we were going out with a torch to vegetable garden, and one person was picking more than 1,000 snails within an hour. So after 3-4 days I said, guys, like let it go. This has no meaning. Like we are putting so much time and energy for, like, let it go. And we let it go. We had zero harvest from that part in that winter vegetable garden area. But since then, second, third, fourth year, today I never go out to pick any snail or I don't touch. And what they eat is not more than 5% of the crops. They are still present. They come, they maybe eat some leaves here and some leaves over there, but it never became an issue. And the damage that they do is not more than 5%. And considering that we are selling already most of the vegetables that you can understand, like I cannot sell a salad with all the leaves are half eaten by the snails. So that doesn't happen anymore. It was only in the first season. Maybe in your climate, this can take 2 seasons because it is a very wet and humid climate where you live. But don't worry, it will find its own balance. It is possible that tomatoes that you plant have the black bottom part because there is not enough calcium in the soil. It is possible that zucchinis that you plant in the first year, they don't grow perfectly because there is not enough potassium in the soil. It is possible. It will happen. Like, accept it. This is the path of awakening the soil, and it will take some time. It is not that first year you plant and then you have the perfect harvest. This would be a lie. Please, Anya.
Elisa, you wanted to also ask something? You can go.
Yes, I was also just thinking about the harmony and the way we are working with here. And when you said just a way back that you're working with 15 or 20 people on the land, I was just wondering if you have a certain way of connecting to the land before you start working on it, because I just noticed for myself, like sometimes you can just like do something like, oh, I'm just going to do it very efficiently today, right? And you have a goal. You're like, I'm going to plant 100 trees, and you could do it like very fast, or you can do it with an intention of calmness, of welcoming it to the earth, or. And I was just curious if you have a certain way, or if you're, I don't know, I'd see a romantic image, of course, of people just singing in the field. And yeah, I was just curious if you have something, yeah, that you do, or personally, or with a group.
There are, like, everyone has its own way, as you said. Me personally, for me, it is like every morning I take 20 minutes and I just walk in the farm. Like, this is, I say, keep your mind empty. Like, don't, like, it happens in the first moment I go to the field. And I know, like, especially if we are in the season, I know that I need to sow or plant or there are things to do, but I say, okay, now this 20 minutes is just working and connecting with the land. And I walk and I look here and there. And then all of a sudden I find myself after this 20 minutes that my body is in action, but my mind is free. So this is my way. Like, I take this intentionally, this every day, 20 minutes, simply going and walking in the field, not doing anything, I don't take any tools. I say I will just go and simply walk. There was a person, Colombian person, he was here, he was singing every morning, for example. He was imitating the bird that he heard the last night. Every morning he was making the same sound. So there was a woman, she was walking barefoot and 5 minutes every day in the land. So another one, she was talking to the ants, like literally verbally talking, not intentionally, they're like really talking with the words. And I believe everyone has own way, but this moment of now we have to work and like this doesn't exist really. Like, it doesn't exist here really. Like, it is not there in our life. We have a very chill rhythm, and of course when things needs to be done, of course, like, it needs to be done, but never in rush. And yeah. Anya, did you want to say something before?
I actually wanted to ask if there are more questions, because we're kind of nearing the ending of our session, and if there's anyone who still has something to share, maybe also an experience from their own garden, or a question, please do so. While everyone is very much thinking about their question, I would already like to give my gratitude to this story that you shared, this very personal story around your journey, around how you came to work on your own farm, how you experienced everything, and also the detailed way of what you shared around the journey on the land, the steps you took from hectare to hectare, from garden to garden, and how much patience I felt in your words, and just seeing, looking, listening, and I could really feel the that transmission of what you shared. And I think it's such a beautiful journey to just really step in gardens and to be inspired by stories like this, and to really step into the soil and hold it with your hands, and really be in touch with it. And actually, Wim, I have to laugh so much because I didn't recognize you in the beginning. So when you came in, I was like, who's this man? And then Kutluhan mentioned this, and I'm just so grateful that you are here as well with us. And I just, you were sitting there, you're so different from when we met. So I'm really honored also that you are here amongst us, and thank you for being here and sharing your knowledge as well. And also feeling that's so nice to have people who are spreading this and coming into this lands and with their soils and their experience and their open minds, and giving and spreading this knowledge. So thank you also for being here, and for the beautiful workshop we had. So I wanted just to mention that. And in the meantime, I was wondering if anyone had a question pop up, or a sharing, or maybe an ending remark that you wanted to make.
I think that Jeroen just came back, so I'm not sure if he heard that we just asked if there was a question. So if you have a question, this is a perfect moment to still ask it, because we're also rounding up. So if there's anybody still with a beautiful question, just any question, of course, you're welcome.
Yeah, hello, I'm back again. I'm a bit struggling with my phone and the internet, so but I'm back. Yeah, I don't know, maybe it mentioned in between. I had a question about how to handle snails, because they seem to be the largest factor in yeah, how to become the crop to become fully grown. And I remember last year we did it similar way as you described it, and yeah, then all the snails came and they just ate the crop. So how to respond to this? Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, don't interact with them. Let them eat and let them take their place, and they will find their own balance. Like we said it also before, but I want to repeat. In a population in the nature cannot continuously grow. This is a simple law of nature. Population can grow till a point, and it reaches to the maximum point of the growth, and then their predators will arrive. And then their predators will arrive till it finds its own balance. So in the climate that you are living in, it is very eligible for snail and slugs population, especially if you use the mulch and then the humid climate, a lot of rain, this will happen. And one thing that you can somehow prevent this situation in the first years, that can be to do direct seedings, which, like, it is not a miracle. It will not solve, let's say, in the especially the first year, the whole snails problem. I want to underline, but because one of the biggest reason that a plant is being attacked by the snails is a stress hormone. That when a plant is in stress, it releases a certain hormone that snails can feel the smell, and then it goes behind this plant. It is like a lion. When a lion wants to catch a deer, lion doesn't run after the strongest and fastest deer, but it runs behind the slowest and the weakest deer. Let's call it like this. So the same as the all living beings, all animals, they go instinctively the weakest one. And this weakness for the plant, it is signed with this stress hormone. When a plant is in stress, it releases a hormone that snails feels it and then goes behind. And one of the main thing that causes this stress is transplanting. So if you are going to transplant in autumn season, in spring maybe it is not that much a big issue because the temperatures are rising, so the snails population will already drop naturally. It will not be the perfect environment, but especially in autumn time, the rains are present, temperatures are falling down, but it is still warmish. And if you transplant in the first year, very likely that snails will come. So, like, let's say a little trick that we can do is to make direct seeding rather than transplanting. This will help a little bit, but the real solution will come with the balance of the soil when it gets healthy, fertile, and balanced, which will take some time, which can be for the snails, it will be in your climate maybe 1 to 2 years, but fully arriving to that place of fertility and full balance, it might take 3 to 4 years. Maybe after the second year, not the snails, but other living beings might cause a problem, like underlining, let's say, problem, but within 3 to 4 years, that will not be issue anymore. So accept their presence, know that they are working for the fertility of the soil, and yeah, keep on sowing seeds.
Yeah, thank you for that response. I have another question that's burning, and it's not about the crops, but it's about the fruit trees. I have a lot of discussions about cutting them or not cutting them. I strongly have the belief that we should leave them, because I was once at a meditation center and there was this huge apple tree, and it was in autumn and there was so many apples lying underneath it, and I saw for the first time a full grown apple tree in my life, and I was so amazed by it. So I think I have the answer, but yeah, I wanted to ask you as well. Yeah.
Well, pruning is a very large topic that we will talk also during the workshop. If you join, that you will also see, or if not, we can also talk in another moment. But very shortly answering to that, you don't need to prune. Why? Because nature is already perfect as it is, and each living being that comes in this planet, it is already perfect within itself, which you can simply confirm this by looking at all around you. Like a cat borns, and within some months it reaches the perfect abilities, same as the human babies, same as dogs, same as all living beings. No need to go there and cut here and there, and because they need to be better or perfect. Everything is already perfect as nature brings, which includes the trees. They are already perfect as they are. There is no need of going there and cutting from here and there, changing the shape. if you do this, it seems that you are having certain benefits out of it, which we can talk in a more detailed way, these things. But actually, you are not bringing any benefit neither to you yourself as a farmer nor to the tree itself. You are simply creating a suffering in a living being and a work for you that you need to continuously prune that tree. But if you leave it as it is, it will already take its own perfect life form and proceed as the way it is. And you said like you saw this apple tree in abundance, which what nature is actually.
I just remembered our vivid discussions here around this topic. So it brought me back to this little group of people discussing, no, we should do it. No, we shouldn't do it. And yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you. And also to add to an answer, which was Wim who showed it so beautifully when it comes to the roots. And I'm sure that during the workshop you will go into this. And you added already with the suffering, but how the roots are mirrored, like below as above. And I just have this image since Wim shared that wisdom. I could really not take that, like it's so imprinted in my system right now that pruning is just no way that you can do that, as you just violate the whole growth, the whole natural growth system of a tree. So yeah, thank you for this question and all the answers. Wim, I saw your hand raised until it was not. So is there still a question?
No, it's just a remark, and Kutluhan responded a bit about it because it's about perfection. When we see something in nature that we don't understand, we we should realize that every living being, or it is a fungi of a bacteria or a tree or a snail, is just acting perfect. It's us that have to change our mind, because we are not understanding something does not mean that there is something going wrong in the garden. It's going perfect, but we should not judge it as wrong. We should try to tap in to that intelligence that is showing us something. So nature is perfect. We are the only natural being. We are the only being that is not acting natural sometimes, or most of the time for some. So I mean, we have a judgment about snails and so on, but nature is acting perfect. And when we keep that in mind every time we don't understand something, it makes it easier. It makes us curious and also respectful. That is what it has shown me. My respect for nature is every day growing. It's just because of that, because I just see something that I don't understand, and then I think, oh, that must be perfect. I don't understand it yet, but it must be perfect. And that's you cannot, that's a big truth. It must be perfect. And when that's your reference. Nee, dat zeg je niet. Hè? Okay, when you keep that in mind, that it is perfect, that it's just us that have to change, or try to understand or try to feel it. That's all. Okay, that was what I want to say.
I just really wanted to say thank you so much for everyone being here. And thank you, Kutluhan, for all your explanations and story. And I really I see the sun shining. I'm almost like, I should go out right now and like check the garden again and feel the garden and like feel the soil and just, I'm happy that tomorrow we have time for natural farming. So we're definitely gonna go there and give some love and some nourishment to the soil. But yeah, it's very motivating and reassuring, and yeah, I just very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure also for me.
Thank you, everyone, again. And please take maybe just a little moment. We can do it a few seconds to again close our eyes and feel with each breath that comes in. Maybe there was a lesson or something that touched you. And feel how this can flow in your system and be adopted in your system, so that we can change our beliefs that we're holding, so we can have a more positive outlook in our inner selves. And perhaps you feel that your body is getting activated or in another way stimulated to, like Elisa so beautifully said, to go out and get your hands dirty and feel how this is an expression of who we are. Thank you for joining, everyone.